Hello everyone. Welcome back. Today, we've got some crucial news you don't want to miss. Let's dive right into the top financial headlines and break down what's happening. As we kick off a new week, there are 5 key economic events coming up that could make some waves in the market. Here's what you need to know. 1. US companies enter Q3 earnings season. Last Friday marked the start of Q3 earnings season for US companies, with the spotlight now shifting to how businesses performed in the last quarter. So far, we're off to a good start. Big banks like JPMorgan and Wells Fargo exceeded expectations, setting a positive tone. But the big question remains, how will other major banks fare? This week, we've got earnings reports coming from Bank of America and Citibank on Tuesday. Since the banking sector often mirrors the health of the broader economy, these reports are critical for understanding where things stand, especially with ongoing concerns about inflation and interest rates. 2. US retail sales data. Thursday is a big day for gauging US consumer health, as the latest retail sales data is set to be released. Since 70% of the US economy depends on consumer spending, these numbers give us a direct line to the overall economic vibe. The consensus right now is that the US has achieved a soft landing, meaning we've avoided a full-blown recession. But is that really the case? This retail data could either reinforce that belief or show cracks in the story. If consumers start cutting back, it could signal that the economy isn't as solid as some think. 3. European Central Bank's rate decision. Over in Europe, all eyes will be on the European Central Bank, ECB, this Thursday as they make a critical decision on interest rates. The market is nearly unanimous in expecting a 25 basis point rate cut. It's one of those rare times when there's little debate. The ECB is seen as having no choice but to cut. Too small of a cut, and it won't make a difference. Too big, and it risks inflation or other economic hiccups. Because the decision is already baked into expectations, we're unlikely to see major volatility in currency markets, like the euro, when the announcement hits. But make no mistake, a rate cut should give the sluggish European economy a much-needed boost. 4. China's Q3 GDP data out on. China's third-quarter GDP report comes out Friday, and it's a must-watch for anyone following global markets. This number is more than just a reflection of China's economy, it's tied to a politically charged goal. The Chinese government is aiming for 5% GDP growth this year. To most observers, hitting 5% doesn't make a huge difference one way or the other for the broader economy. But in China's political landscape, missing that target could be seen as a failure for the Communist Party. In short, it's less about economics and more about saving face. If Q3 GDP growth comes in lower than expected, say, around the 4.6% mark that many are forecasting, China's 5% annual target might be out of reach. This would force the government to ramp up its already significant stimulus measures, which could lead to an artificial boost in the numbers, or what some might call data massaging. Either way, expect a lot of scrutiny on these numbers, as they'll give us a sense of whether China will hit or miss its politically sensitive target. 5. International oil prices. Finally, let's talk oil. Global oil prices have been in a weird holding pattern recently, as everyone waits to see what happens between Israel and Iran. With the threat of large-scale Israeli retaliation looming, oil traders are on edge. Will Israel launch a big strike on Iran, potentially sending oil prices through the roof? Or will tensions cool down, allowing prices to stabilize? The outcome could send shockwaves through the energy market, so this is one geopolitical situation that investors are watching closely. Adding to the complexity, China recently announced what it's calling its biggest ever stimulus package. But here's the catch, the oil markets don't seem convinced that this will lead to a significant bump in China's oil demand. If China's economic boost doesn't translate into higher oil consumption, it could signal that the stimulus won't do much to lift the global economy, leaving oil prices relatively flat. The second important news I want to share with you today is U.S. sends missile defense system to Israel amid rising tensions with Iran. One of the top stories in the Wall Street Journal today focuses on the growing US-Israel defense collaboration as tensions with Iran heat up. The headline reads, US to send anti-missile system and troops to Israel, Pentagon says, with a subtitle explaining that this decision comes as both countries are actively discussing Israel's potential strikes on Iran. According to the article, U.S. officials revealed on Sunday that the Biden administration is planning to send Israel an advanced missile defense system, known as THAAD, Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, operated by U.S. military personnel. This move is part of a broader effort to help shield Israel, one of Washington's closest allies in the Middle East, from potential missile attacks by Iran. The THAAD system is designed to intercept and destroy ballistic missiles in their terminal phase, meaning it can take out incoming threats before they reach their target. The deployment of U.S. soldiers to operate this system marks a significant step in direct American involvement in Israel's defense, especially with the increasing likelihood of conflict between Israel and Iran. The bigger picture: potential Israeli strikes on Iran. What's driving this latest defense boost? Well, Israel has been signaling that it's preparing for potential retaliatory strikes against Iran following recent hostilities. But Washington is urging Israel to be strategic and avoid targeting Iran's nuclear or oil facilities, both of which could cause massive regional and global repercussions. If Israel does go ahead with a military strike, it could trigger an Iranian response, escalating the conflict further. This situation is delicate, as it involves two longtime allies, Israel pushing for a harder stance against Iran, and the US trying to contain the fallout. The key issue here is whether the two sides can agree on what targets are acceptable. Israel is keen on striking a broad range of Iranian assets, while the US is advocating for a more restrained approach, limited to military installations. What this means for the market and global tensions. One critical takeaway from this report is that any strike on Iran by Israel will likely provoke a counterstrike from Tehran. This would mark the third time Iran has attacked Israeli territory, adding fuel to an already volatile situation. The last time Iran launched missile attacks, some of their strikes managed to hit Israeli military targets, exposing gaps in Israel's air defense system. The US is sending its THAAD system to fill those gaps and ensure that Israel is better prepared for future missile strikes. Now, even though there's ongoing talk about possible military actions, this story suggests that we're not likely to see an immediate Israeli strike on Iran, at least not in the next few days. Negotiations between the US and Israel are still in progress, and the missile defense system deployment will take some time to be set up. In short, we probably won't see any major developments over the next 3 days, which gives global markets, especially the oil markets, some breathing room. Final thoughts: US-Israel ties stay strong despite differences. Despite rumors that the US and Israel are at odds over how to handle Iran, this report highlights how closely the two nations continue to work together on defense. While the US might not agree with every step Israel takes, it's clear that America remains deeply committed to Israel's security. The decision to send US military personnel to operate the THAAD system is a testament to that commitment. For now, the world, and particularly international oil markets, will be watching closely to see how these talks between the US and Israel unfold and whether a military confrontation with Iran becomes inevitable. The third important news I want to share with you today is SpaceX Starship test, why it's a game-changer for space travel and global defense. Today, The Economist reported on a major milestone for SpaceX with the headline, "SpaceX just tested its Starship." Why does that matter? The subtitle gives us a glimpse into the big picture, noting that this reusable spacecraft could redefine space travel. So, what's the deal with SpaceX's latest Starship test? And why should we care? Well, today, Elon Musk's rocket company successfully launched its Starship, marking the 5th test of this massive spacecraft. If everything goes according to plan, the 100-ton Starship will orbit half the globe, landing safely in the Indian Ocean. Meanwhile, the massive booster rocket that sent it into space will return to the launch site in Texas, where 2 giant robotic arms will attempt to catch it mid-air. Crazy, right? For some perspective, the Starship system is powered by a massive Super Heavy booster. This shiny, steel rocket is 9 meters wide and 71 meters tall, about the same length as a Boeing 747, but way beefier. Empty, it weighs around 200 tons, but when fully loaded with 3,400 tons of liquid oxygen and methane, it's a force to be reckoned with. It's powered by 33 engines, each with 3 times the thrust of SpaceX's current rockets. Now, the first few tests didn't go so well. There were failed separations, boosters breaking apart, and even fiery re-entries. But this latest attempt is shaping up to be the most successful one yet, potentially laying the groundwork for even bigger accomplishments down the line. And let's not forget, SpaceX is working on launching more Starlink satellites to boost global internet access and potentially build refueling stations in orbit for missions to the Moon, and yes, maybe one day to Mars. Two big takeaways from this test. Now, let's zoom out for a minute. Why is this Starship project so crucial? I've got two main thoughts. 1. Strategic military advantage. This is a game-changer for US military capabilities, and that's exactly what has countries like Russia and China nervous. Imagine being able to deploy over 100 tons of equipment anywhere on Earth in just 30 minutes. That's what the Starship could offer the US military. It's no secret that SpaceX is working closely with the Department of Defense on this, and it could radically shift the balance of global military power. If the US can move troops and gear around the world at this kind of speed, it changes the rules of modern warfare. We're not just talking about space exploration here. This could reshape the strategic landscape in ways we haven't even begun to fully grasp. 2. The road to Mars. The other key point? Starship is Musk's golden ticket to Mars. He's been pretty vocal about his vision to colonize the red planet. And if Starship can reliably carry heavy payloads into orbit and beyond, that dream becomes a lot more realistic. What's especially interesting is Musk's whole persona. Just recently, he was spotted at a Trump rally wearing a hat with Trump's slogan, yet he was also sporting a t-shirt with his own personal mission, Occupy Mars. It's like Musk is playing a game on two fronts, one foot in US politics and one eye on the stars. But think about it, if Musk pulls this off and starts setting up colonies on Mars, we're talking about an entirely new chapter for humanity. He's not just launching rockets, he's trying to reshape civilization. And what happens if one day Musk declares Mars his own private colony? That raises all kinds of ethical and geopolitical questions. For instance, what happens when an individual, not a government, controls an entire planet? Of course, this scenario is uniquely possible in a place like the US, where entrepreneurs like Musk have the freedom and resources to chase such outlandish dreams. In more authoritarian countries, like China, any spacefaring adventurer would be quickly reminded that everything they find, whether it's gold or Martian soil, belongs to the state. So, as out there as this may sound, SpaceX's progress is about way more than cool rockets. It's about reshaping our understanding of space, power, and even the future of humanity. That's all for today. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more updates. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.